The government's controversial Provincial Growth Fund has committed nearly $1.8 billion of its $3 billion war chest, but the opposition isn't convinced taxpayers are getting bang for buck. The update comes after the Auditor-General last month said he would increase the scrutiny of the fund and its management amid concerns about how some of the funding has been allocated. Our reporter Charlie Drever was at the briefing and filed this report.
The government established the 3-year fund to raise the productivity of regional New Zealand as part of Labour's coalition deal with New Zealand First. One of the areas to benefit is Greymouth, which received $750,000 to dredge the lagoon, and Mayor Tony Cockshawn says it's been a godsend.
If the dredging work wasn't done, our port would come to a standstill. The fish factories wouldn't be able to unload from the fishing boats that are bringing in huge amounts of fish, tuna, hoki, and all types of other fish from the Hoki Trench. The tuna season alone and hoki season brings in over 80 vessels permanent into the port.
Tony Cockshawn says ratepayers simply couldn't have covered the cost, but the flow-on effects will be felt throughout the district. But Regional Economic Development Minister Shane Jones told a briefing today that not all of the $3 billion fund would be spent by the end of the 3 years.
I've always said not a cent will be left in terms of unallocated putea. It's one thing for ministers to take cabinet-mandated allocation decisions, then it's another thing for the funds to be fully assigned and projects completed. In respect of transport, those projects will go beyond the next election.
The New Zealand First MP says roading has been his greatest frustration.
It does get quite challenging as the Regional Development Minister once the putea goes to independent entities via the Ministry of Transport, such as NZTA. When I say frustration, because obviously every time I move around the motu, people are invariably hoha with what they see as the problems of their regional roads, and yet we have given some putea over for some of those roads.
Shane Jones says he has asked the Office of the Auditor-General to investigate how efficiently those entities are delivering their portion of the fund. The biggest concern for National Party Regional Economic Development spokesperson Paul Goldsmith is the lack of follow-up.
We're halfway through the parliamentary cycle and we've been told that they've allocated more than half of the $3 billion. And yet we still, they admit, don't have any clear framework in place to evaluate the success or otherwise of where the money is being spent.
Robert Pagoo, who's the head of the Provincial Development Unit, which oversees the fund, says it will be years before the full impact of the projects will be realised. He says their staff will be checking in with successful applicants who will be asked to provide hard data.
The number of jobs that have been created, the number of local people that have been employed, training courses, what additional businesses have been created as a result of those investments into their particular projects.
Paul Goldsmith says that's hopelessly inadequate. However, New Zealand First leader Winston Peters isn't about to have the fund's success questioned.
This idea that somehow all the jobs appear on day one when you make the investment demonstrates but how many parliamentarians have had no business background whatsoever. And we do not intend to put up with that sort of cynicism and urban grind against the export wealth-creating people of this country any longer.
More light is expected to be shed on the fund after a review of the Provincial Development Units is completed in October. So far, the fund has created 560 jobs, although officials have been unable to confirm how many of them are permanent. In Wellington, for Checkpoint, Charlie Drever.